On March 29, Eritrean cyclists were welcomed a hero's welcome by the people. Thousands lined up on the main streets of Asmara to welcome the victorious cyclists that returned from Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, after competing in the 2022 African Continental World Cycling Championships with 7 gold, 6 silver, and 2 bronze medals. And on the backdrop, a 21-year-old Phenom, Biniam Girmai, made history by being the first African to win gold at Gent, Wevelgem. The 21-year-old Phenom is eager to return home and celebrate with his family after shocking the cycling world with one of the most memorable victories in the annual cycling competition's history since 1934. If you love Eritrea and want to promote it, subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share the videos so we can provide more. For years, Eritrean cyclists have celebrated cycling victories all over the world. These victories were achieved by young Eritrean riders that have become global stars like Daniel Teklehaimanot, Biniam Girmai, and others. The world is surprised by the landmark achievements and monumental victories of Eritrean cyclists in Africa, Europe, the USA, and worldwide. These achievements are seen as a victory to African cycling. After a recent victory by cyclist Biniam Girmai, a Western journalist said, Biniam held a landmark moment for Eritrea and Africa after winning the silver medal in the under-23 men's road race at the Union Cycling International UCI World Championships. Biniam Girmai earned the silver medal at the World Championships in Leuven thanks to an exciting sprint finish. With his success, Biniam Girmai made history. He became the first black African rider to earn a medal at the World Championships. He's also the first African rider to do so since 2013 by Luis of South Africa. Girmai's achievements ended on a historic note because on December 14, 2021, for the second year in a row, the 21-year-old received the award for Africa Cycling of the Year award by a jury presided by a 5-time Tour de France winner, Bernard Hinault. Biniam Girmai's story is not in isolation. Eritreans love cycling. Eritreans have competed at high levels for generations. Eritrean cycling victories were not achieved overnight. It is rooted in the love Eritreans have for cycling and the competitive sport of cycling. Cycling is also embraced as part of the daily life of the average Eritrean. The history of Eritrean cycling dates back to the mid-1930s. Eritreans started to use bicycles in sports in 1935. This period is identified as Nel Trentacinque, or the year 1935, signifying the year Italy invaded Ethiopia. Eritrea was under Italian occupation between 1890 and 1941. Hence, it was not easy for the Eritrean people to overcome the obstacles posed by the fascist discriminatory laws. It is surreal to think that Eritreans managed to compete in any of the cycling events that were organized by the Italian colonizers. Eritreans can be described by many attributes. The struggle for the independence of Eritrea showed determination, bravery, resilience, grit, resourcefulness, and the ability to finish no matter the obstacles or the price they have to pay. There are 4 generations in the cycling sports history. The first gallant historic riders are referred to as the first generation. These riders were the leaders that showed resilience, dedication, and overcame the oppressive measures of the colonizers by encouraging each other, by saying out loud the Tigrinya word habbo, which means grit. Eritrean cycling history is very little known in black history. Like their black counterparts in the US and around the globe, Eritreans faced incredible adversity and hardship at the hands of white colonialist oppressors. These events were taking place at the same time when black athletes worldwide were beginning to have their presence felt. This include Constantine Enrique de Zubiera, the first black athlete to compete at the France 1900 Olympics. John Taylor, the first black athlete to win a gold medal as part of the U.S. relay team in athletics 1908 London Olympics. Jesse Owens, perhaps the most storied black athlete who won 4 gold medals during the Olympic Games in Berlin in 1936, crushing Hitler's myth about white Aryan supremacy. Eritrean athletes should be seen in this light because their monumental achievement took place during the most turbulent global conflicts in World War II while under oppressive colonialists. Eritrean cyclists fought hard and were able to demonstrate that they are capable. They showed their skills by competing against the Italian colonizers and winning. By doing so, they proved that black Africans are not in any way inferior. Eritrean cyclists managed to score huge victories when Biniam Girmay won in 1939 and Wevelgem, nicknamed Berbere, won in 1946 over the Italian colonizers. These are victories that paved the way to more success. It is little known or spoken about that two Eritrean Olympians, Aye Bahata and Mesfin Tesfaye, were the first black Africans to compete in the 1956 Olympics in Melbourne, Australia. The gritty competitive nature of the Eritrean athletes that started with the first generation continued during the oppressive Ethiopian colonial periods of 1960 until the mid-1970s, when the struggle for the independence of Eritrea raged throughout. The second generation riders, which became household names, were in a sense a link to the riders of the struggle and post-independence Eritrea. In the 60s and 70s, these cyclists were household names because of their incredible international achievements. These cyclists competed against the European athletes and made headlines in the Olympics from 1960 to 1972. In 1972, 5 riders stood first and won gold medal in the All-African Games in Lagos, Nigeria. The early 60s and until the mid-70s were the first golden era of cycling in Eritrea. And after that, for about 17 years during the struggle, despite the hardships they faced by the Ethiopian colonizers, the third generation was also able to achieve modest historic victories in the domestic and international stages while they maintained the victorious history and legacy of Eritrean cyclists. They maintained the competitive cycling culture during a very trying moment in the history of Eritrea. These legendary names were followed by the new generation known as the fourth generation. The fourth generation is having extraordinary success globally. Eritrean cyclists are highly sought after by many international teams. Many have joined European and Asian cycling clubs, unthinkable some 25 years ago. Eritrean cyclists have broken ceilings and arrived on a global stage, and they are effectively competing and achieving success. Daniel Teklehaimanot's achievements are elite. After a surgery in early 2009, he returned to riding, and in May of that year, he finished 6th in the Tour del Avenir. In 2010, Daniel rode as a trainee for Cervello test team. The same year, he won the African Championships in the road race, individual time trial, and team trial at both senior and under 23 levels. On the 2010-11 UCI Africa Tour, he won the Tour of Rwanda and the Kwita Izina Cycling Tour. In the 2012 Summer Olympics, being the first Eritrean competing, he finished the road race in the 73rd position. In 2012, he became the first Eritrean to ride in the Vuelta de España, one of the 3 Grand Tours. Daniel joined MTN Quebec for the 2014 season on a 2-year contract. In 2015, at the Criterion du Dauphin, Daniel won the first World Tour jersey in MTN Quebec's history by taking the mountains competition. He was then named on the start list for the 2015 Tour de France. In July of the same year, Daniel Teklehaimanot became the first rider from an African team to wear the polka dot jersey at the Tour de France. He was named on the start list for the 2017 Giro d'Italia, where he briefly held the mountains classification jersey. His final race was with Dimension Data in the 2017 Tour of Guangxi. Eritrea has a lot of successful cyclists currently competing globally. Other than in South Africa, cycling was not a popular sport, especially relative to soccer, a widely popular sport throughout the continent. Eritrean cyclists have become a prominent presence in various African tournaments and have created awareness, if not popularity. The roots of such success lie in the determination of the people who confronted Italian, British, and Ethiopian colonial rulers and demanded respect for their rights, the right to participate and compete. They demanded equal treatment in the cycling contest organized by the colonizers. They never succumbed to colonial pressures and time and again outshined their adversaries for decades. They are truly the expression of their people. The cyclists and athletes from the first generations to the current young riders have paid dearly to the success stories we are enjoying and boasting about today. What defines their selfless dedication to their sport and their people is their humble nature. In an interview with Joe Bean, when asked about his childhood, Girmay smiles shyly at the memory of his childhood and said, "There are races every weekend in Eritrea and around Asmara once every 2 months. When I started cycling, I was about 13. My brother gave me his bike and we went for a little coffee ride. That's when I gradually started to feel the passion. My dad then bought me a new bike. I remember it was very expensive. My dad owns a small carpentry business and I joined him sometimes. It was only 10-kilometer ride to work, but it sparked the motivation." Eritrea has a knack, an ability to take what is available and run with it successfully. If we look back at Eritrean cycling history, the Italians first introducing cycling to Eritreans in 1898. They introduced bicycle to be used for postal services. Gradually, as cycling became a competitive sport in the 20th century, it took off in Eritrea. Since then, bicycles have a 120-year-old heritage as means of transportation and competitive sports. The competitive spirit of Eritrea produced some of the best cyclists in the world today. Eritrean people embraced cycling and in a short time made it part of their daily life as a mode of transportation and means of competitive sports. Initially, bicycles were referred to as Arabia Shaitan, which means the devil's chariot. However, since they learned how to enjoy bicycles, they made the best use of it. Bicycle is an integral part of Eritrean life today. Eritrea has a new generation of men and women cyclists referred to as the fourth generation, who managed to introduce Eritrea on a global stage in significant numbers and in ways that placed Eritrea at the highest levels, while bringing Eritrean communities together wherever they go. Eritrea has produced more than 25 pro cyclists who have joined leading professional clubs in Europe and globally. The struggle for independence has prevented Eritreans from participating in international sports and sports in general. However, it also made them hungrier. Women in Eritrea have always made a significant contribution equal to men on many fronts and excelled in many areas. Eritrean women have made significant progress in overcoming significant barriers and limitations. Eritrean women cyclists have also made a remarkable contribution to the sport. Eritrea has produced skilled and competitive women cyclists. The level of talent in the sport of cycling is world class. Since independence, several Eritrean women cyclists were able to join the UCI World Cycling Center, WCC, in Switzerland, and the Africa Rising Cycling Center, ARCC, in Rwanda for intensive training. Two Eritrean female cyclists, Johanna Dawit and Mosana Debesai, have joined professional clubs in the USA and Italy. Marhawi Qudus, Nathaniel Burhane, Biniam Girmai, Daniel Teklehaimanot, and many others are showcasing their unstoppable talent and in the process exposing their roots and telling a remarkable history of cycling in Eritrea. Based on its history, because of its resilience, competitiveness, skill, and can-do attitude, Eritrea will continue to produce stars and shine everywhere. If you love Eritrea and want to promote it, subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share the videos so we can provide more.